A word might also be appropriate on the cover of this book. It features a painting entitled La Protesta by David Alfaro Siqueiros. Siqueiros was one of the great Mexican muralists in mid-20th century Mexico. He's sometimes referred to as the most political of all artists. He was a man of military struggle, in some ways, having fought against the usurper of the Mexican Revolution early in the 20th century. And also he fought in the Spanish Civil War on the side of the Republican cause against fascism there. He was active on many fronts in Mexico for working classes, especially for the indigenous peoples of Mexico and all over Latin America, who he saw as subject to U.S. Yankee imperialism. In fact, one of his most famous murals features a peasant being crucified under the dominance of U.S. Yankee imperialism. He linked that struggle to many other sufferings elsewhere in the world, such as the Korean War, which during the same time as his making of this 1952 piece, La Protesta, featured aerial bombardment that devastated so much of Korea. And he named that, postered much of Mexico City with information about the Korean War. He even used military tactics against communist Leon Trotsky in Mexico, who he felt had jeopardized the cause of the Republicans in the Civil War in Spain and also jeopardized Mexico's ongoing struggle. Siqueiros is often referred to as a social realist, but that would be too simple. He, in fact, also referred to himself as an expressivist, one committed to unlocking from visions of the real the often hidden vitality of resilience and dignity and transformation and defiance that are at the heart of ordinary people's struggle. You can see this in the painting. At first look, La Protesta is simply of a gathering of women. There's a strong note of defiance, but there's also, along with that woman with the arms raised in defiance, a kind of gathering, a sense of vulnerability, as even children, boy and girl, cling to the bodies of the women. There's a huddling and a gathering. I think the overall sense of it is that here is a gathering of humanity that, yes, is vulnerable, but also something of a coming specter. You don't know what they will do, how they will mobilize. There's this defiance mixed with fear and vulnerability that makes them a gathering specter to the forces of exploitation. That was classic David Alfaro Siqueiros. It's in fact another way artistically to point to the truth of the lines I cite, both in the introduction and conclusion of my book, from Victor Serge, that political activist imprisoned both in France and in Soviet Russia. Serge says, "In time, flesh will wear out chains." What kind of flesh? My book is an attempt to think into the meaning of that kind of statement. And Siqueiros' image, La Protesta, also leads us to contemplate that kind of question.